Talking more, yeah.
Talking.
You guys are talking.
We're talking
Oh, really?
A lot of talkers.
I would agree with that.
This podcast is called Erase the Filter.
Erase the filter.
Erase the Filter.
I want you to call everybody you know.
All right.
Who you think would be up now.
I think my mom's up right now.
Are you stoned?
On Wednesday, I'm going to see my marijuana person.
Are you excited?
Huh?
Are you excited?
I'm not. I'm interested.
Listen to me.
Yeah, okay, I'm listening.
I think that they have pills, though, don't they? I don't want to be smoking something.
This is the year, man. This is the year of action.
Looking forward to 2019.
I feel like there's this convergence of like really cool stuff bubbling.
Glad to have you on board.
And I just feel like that there's, I just really feel like that there's this, a lot of really great opportunities that are spinning around.
This is the year, man.
This is the year, man.
This is the year of action.
This dog has 400 fucking square feet, and he is chewing on that mic stand and pushing that
loves you.
thing and poking that mic stand.
It's love. It's love. That dog gets more likes than you and I combined.
Look, chewing on the cables.
This is Ollie, by the way. So we're going to post a picture of Ollie so you can all see how adorable he is.
This isn't going to be in this fucking podcast.
When he is not chewing on the mic stand.
That comment is not going to be in this. I can't. I have to edit that shit. And
but that's actually pretty funny shit.
No, your mic stand keeps getting bumped by the dog.
That's why people listen.
That's not why they listen.
Holy,
no, they don't want to hear bumps on a mic stand.
They're not hearing bumps. They're hearing Holly.
Basically, it comes down to you only have one time to make a first impression.
That's it.
If you do your work, or if you're interested enough in researching who you want to influence, like you can improve your odds.
Yes.
So I want a conversion rate. I want a 20% conversion rate. That's what I'd like. Could I do that? Like, could I say, like, I'm going to send out 20 packets? Can I get 20% conversion?
Right.
I don't know.
Will you get 4 sales from sending out 20 packets?
20 packets, yeah.
And that's a huge rate, right? That's like batting 500.
That'd be crazy. That would be insane.
I ended up doing 6 episodes. And I couldn't figure out what I wanted the podcast to be.
And then you see that idea develop over time.
Okay, I'm going to start this over. Okay, so this is Jason, and it is the end of January. It's the 26th of 2020. And the beginning of this podcast probably sounded like it was a setup for 2019, which it was. But it's now 2020. And I haven't finished this particular episode. So let me explain. I started the Erase the Filter podcast back in 2018 with every intention of doing it, on a regular basis. I did 6 episodes that year, which was difficult to even do. And I was trying to figure out what it even was supposed to be. It ended up being sort of an interview podcast for experimental music. Which I love experimental music, and I love to talk about it, and I love to talk with people who make it. But the podcast sort of just became a show about experimental music, and that's not really the idea that I think it had intended. What I had intended was more of a collage of various audio things that I collect that put together makes an interesting piece of audio art. That was about the extent of it, and it sort of became something kind of intentional, and I think my resistance to it was that all of a sudden I had sort of an audio music magazine for experimental music. So it was like, oh, I better go find another experimental artist to interview or to have my friends interview, like Bellard. But I didn't really want to do that. So I was working on this episode at the beginning of 2019, which I had dubbed the Year of Action, because 2017 and 2018 were these incredibly transitional years for me. And so I had gotten through a lot of big life changes, and I was thinking I need to settle into the things that I love to do, which is making music and making audio art. And I need to take some action to get my life to a more stable place. It was very tumultuous for a while. So in any event, the Year of Action was 2019, and it actually turned out to be a massive year of action, which is what prevented me ultimately from continuing to make a podcast. But it was almost like one of those weird, visualizations, which I don't really, I believe in sort of ish. You visualize something and then it's supposed to happen, kind of this weird woo-woo secret kind of stuff. My take on that is that it's a little bit more just intention. So it's not as mystical as it sounds, or as people who sell products around it want to make it sound. It's more like, okay, I got to get my shit together. I've got to make some changes so my life will stabilize, so that I can enjoy time with, my friends and my family and the people around me who I want to be with. And so it was more like that. It was just more like, okay, this year has to be a year of action. I thought that meant that I could, regularly create a podcast, which is something that I've loved to do since around 2010. But it didn't work that way. It turned out that 2019 was filled with big projects where you sort of spend a whole bunch of time working on the front end of a project, meaning like I sold a house and I bought a house. That's a big commitment of time and energy and effort for several months, either of those. And then it's over. And then you move on to the next project, the next phase. My eldest, Eris, went off to college in 2019, so there was a whole lot of time and effort wrapped around that shit, like financial aid and making sure that we knew how it was all going to work. But it's just these projects, like, okay, we got to get you in there, settled, make sure everything's paid for, blah, 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 blah. So it was just this series of big projects, and what it did was it took away time from really finding a groove around something like this podcast, or regularly making music, recording demos, and that sort of thing. So I ended up also launching 2 other podcasts in 2019 for the co-working space where I work, the Candy Factory in Lancaster. And one of them is a very NPR-style interview podcast called Doers, which showcases people in the region where I live who are doing creative, innovative, and entrepreneurial things. And setting up and sort of launching a show of that nature is also a project. Like the kickoff of that, which happened in the fall of 2019, like there's a lot of work that goes into just sort of setting it up, and then you can find a rhythm. And I launched a second podcast called The Candy Factory 5x5, also recorded at the Candy Factory in our media studio. But it's a way more casual, less involved show that my friend Diggs and I do, where we invite a guest to join us and we talk about 5 random topics for 5 minutes each. Therefore, it's called 5x5. I realized that, okay, that's over. The year of action was a year of action. I got out and played some music a few times. I launched a couple podcasts, sold some real estate, bought some real estate, that kind of thing. So, 2020, which is now, has been dubbed the Year of Rhythm. Dubbed by me, just making that shit up. But I was like, okay, well, if I've done all this stuff in 2019 to sort of settle, to find, to have an address where I live, and to have a studio set up and that kind of thing, and a couple of podcasts that I can sink my teeth into. Now it's time to find some groove. Now it's time to find some rhythm around those things. So I started digging through my archives, and one of the side projects I have this year is going through all of my digital archives to start really building a portfolio on the Erase the Filter website. And I found this podcast, episode 7 of Erase the Filter, which was called The Year of Action. And I realized, wow, that one didn't really go anywhere. In fact, I had only really recorded the intro and threw some files into it over the course of the spring when I was actually working out the details for the Doers podcast. So, and there's some fun clips there. So I had sort of built this platform for this new episode, threw some clips in that I thought it might be interesting to use, so I'm keeping them here. And I'm looking to find a little bit of rhythm with this particular show. But one of my other projects is to archive all of my digital work. Actually, all of my analog work as well from the past 30 years of recording. So while I'm doing that, I'm going to be uncovering a lot of old audio, like the clip that you heard at the front of this podcast about being stoned, which is from an old radio show that I did with my friend Mike D back in college, WCCB in Clarion, that features our friend Bakeman on that clip. So I'm going to be uncovering this audio, and I'd like to include it in future episodes of Erase the Filter. And as I'm digging through this old stuff, I'll be building some episodes to publish here. So if you faithfully listened to the first 6 episodes, which I'm calling Season 1 of Erase the Filter back in 2018, and you thought that it was pretty cool that I was interviewing electronic and experimental musicians, I might do that again. There may be some of that. If you were thinking, oh, Erase the Filter might end up being this great resource for learning about experimental musicians, probably not going forward. I will definitely include some conversations with people who make experimental music, but my vision right now has very little to do with that, and it's more just about an audio collage. So maybe I'm peeling back the curtain a little too much. I don't know. Maybe I'm over-explaining my intent. I don't know. But it's my fucking podcast, and I'll do whatever I want with it. And if you enjoy it, awesome. And if you don't, then that's awesome too. With that, I'm gonna turn this recording off.
Yo, what's going on, Mundock? It's Newman. Call me.
This podcast is to me it's a culmination of a lot of the work that I've done in the past. With
Oh my God, for real? That's an issue?
ice, yes, it's a huge issue. If you heard it, you'd be like, what the fuck's that noise in the
Alright, well
background?
now you know it's ice.
The Doers podcast is, I would never give somebody water with ice if I'm hosting a podcast.
Wow, mistake number 1.
No.
Come on, say it.
EraseTheFilter.com. God, I feel like...
say it with more attitude.
Oh.
Say it like, fuck you.
Dude, fuck you. EraseTheFilter.com.
This is Jason Mundock. Thanks for listening to Erase the Filter. Show notes can be found at erasethefilter.com, and if you have feedback about the show, feel free to email me at jmundok, jmundok, @gmail.com. And always remember,
Open your mind.
Be yourself.
erase the filter.